Christine Eilvig is with us today all the way from Denmark. She is a spiritual mentor with some radiant wisdom. And as we recorded the episode, the sun was setting behind her, so it looked like she was literally glowing. It was pretty cool to watch. I'm sorry that you guys don't get to watch it. That's crazy, but you do get to listen, and I think you can pretty much hear in her voice how wonderful her wisdom is for all of us. So Christine joins us to chat about all of her full circle journey of her self-employed career from the business world to the spiritual, back to the business, and now back to the spiritual. And this episode is a particularly good one for you if you've got some part of you or some piece of work that you haven't yet revealed to the world, and you know that eventually someday that day will come. I really love Christine's soft and nurturing approach to doing brave things, and I think you will too. Before we get into today's interview with Christine, I have a couple of announcements to make. Well, one mainly. The 5-day Bare Naked Bravery Challenge is just around the corner, and signups to join us are free, but they will close on May 14th. So be sure to visit barenakedbravery.com/challenge to get in on that list. And I'll pop in later on during this episode to tell you a little bit more about it, but let me tell you, it's going to be really cool. The other announcement is that all of Christine's links to keep in touch with her are available in the show notes for this episode. So you can go to barenakedbravery.com, type in Christine for that, and she will pop right up. Her beautiful little face will pop right up. Okay, let's jump into things with Christine Eilvig. You're listening to Bare Naked Bravery, a weekly podcast hosted by me, Emily Ann Peterson. As a singer-songwriter, author, teaching artist, and creative entrepreneur, I encounter some really fascinating stories. I'm on a mission to reveal the depth and width of bravery and its benefits to creatives like yourself. More than ever today, our world needs bravery, unique bravery, from everyone. This is the place where you find it. There is no script or censorship today because that's how these facets of Bare Naked Bravery are in real life. So if you're listening with little ears nearby, please know that some episodes may contain mature language and subject matter. One of the easiest ways you can share bravery with the world is to send this episode to a friend or two. Send them an email, text, or tweet. Tag them in one of my Instagram posts. My handle is Emily Ann Pete. Or leave us a review on iTunes. It takes seconds and can be done from your phone right now. Again, we need more bravery in the world, so let's be brave together. Are you ready for some Bare Naked Bravery? Let's do this. Christine Eilvig is here with us, and she is such a sweetheart. She's very kind. I think you guys are going to enjoy this conversation because she has gone from different realms of her work and different fields of her work and back, and has kind of come full circle. And I am curious, Christine, first of all, can you tell us what you do? Mm-hmm. And then why have you come back to the same work?
So I have a traditional teaching platform, a lot of online stuff, the membership thing and the certification program. And I began my fascination with feng shui and angels and very kind of spiritual woo-woo kind of stuff. I came straight out of university. And I thought that was just going to be easy to just teach about all these things. And I focused on just being the teacher, like most spiritual oriented people. They're into teaching and uplifting and all of that. And it didn't take me many days until I realized that I needed to educate myself around business and sales and statistics and all these weird components that I hadn't thought of before becoming a business owner. So that took me through a few years where I focused on all of those things and I educated myself. And in many ways, that was a very spiritual journey, or for me, it became one because I was interested in the feelings and the upper limits I came across and and the whole self-sabotaging paradigm and all of that. And then I ended up, understanding the business and money part quite quickly. And then I returned to using those skills into, teaching spirituality. So now I have a spiritual mentor program where I teach all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. When you got started in all of this, I don't know what the cultural landscape or the cultural and spiritual landscape of Denmark is right now, but what was that like to start something in that spiritual woo-woo field and just go for it? Or did you go for it?
I had many things going on. I had such a great degree from university, and my path was going to be like a communication, employed something. And that was one thing, just stepping out of all of that and just not creating a job for myself. That was just completely different from what I was doing in university. And then I had become a mom. I had 2 small kids. And then on top of all of that, back then, the internet, it was there, of course, but it was so young and no one talked about passive income or online business and all of that. And I was into that. So I went to America many times and learned a lot of stuff. And then I came back and I was so excited. And I said, we can all become millionaires and make all of this money. And we can even do it having our kids and keeping our youth and all the things women want. And many people were kind of angry about that statement. They were like, oh, are you saying that it's possible? And do you believe in unicorns too? And so I had so much stuff come up.
What was that like to get, who was saying that kind of stuff?
My colleagues and the people who were like a little bit further ahead on this journey. And they were like, oh, there's this she's so into new stuff. And we all know that it's going to take lots of, blood, sweat, and tears. And I just felt like the odd one in the classroom, and I've been feeling that for my whole life. And now I've just embraced that part of me. I'm an innovator, and I do things differently, and my mind works differently. So I actually ended up on national TV with a colleague, and people were mocking us, because we said that we can affect our bank account, and we can do it in a fun way and in a nurturing way. And that taught me a lot about visibility and online shaming and, all of that stuff.
Well, I've had like a small Facebook-sized amount of Facebook shaming, when it's like political season and someone doesn't agree with you or whatever. But what was that like? I don't know what year that was when all of that was going down, but how did that unfold for you?
It was 2010, and I know this because I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and I am very sensitive and I'm very vulnerable, so it was pretty scary. And my business partner and I, we arranged it so she would do all the TV and I would concentrate on radio. And it taught me a lot about the fact that when people and even experts, they talk about you and they talk about phenomena and all of that, it's like they don't know what they're talking about. So that kind of healed my whole thing. Like, people will talk about you either way. So all you have left is to just do what feels good for you. I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but that really landed in my cells back then. And I thought, they're going to say anything anyway. So as long as I focus on what's making me happy, that's what I'll do. So I kind of stopped teaching business and money because it brought up so much stuff. And I went back to the spirituality, and I just made it a very cool business for myself. And now I see we're like 6-7 years further, and now everyone's doing what I was talking about back then. And they're doing it like it's like the next normal thing. And I'm like, whoa, that's what I said back then. But they weren't ready, and I didn't own it, and, all of that stuff. So I look at myself back then, and I think I was just very cute and very into spreading new stuff.
Mm-hmm. So my thesis for bravery is that you might have your own, and I'm curious to hear what it is, actually. So my thesis of bravery is that it is an overlap of 3 things: vulnerability, imagination, and improvisation. And improvisation requires some of that intuition and the ability to read your constraints and read your environment to determine how and when to act. But there's also that element of vulnerability that's required to just be and do exactly what you know how to do. What was that like to learn that lesson the hard way? I mean, I know I kind of already asked that question. However,
it was a hard lesson. I feel like I matured business-wise with an audience, and I'm okay with it now. But back then, it was like being in a very bad reality show, and yeah, it was kind of tough. But now I'm matured and I learned so much, so I wouldn't be without it, but I wouldn't like to go through it again.
Of course. So, okay, what advice would you have for someone who has found themselves in a situation where they've put themselves out there and it was not received like they thought it was going to be received, and in a bad way?
So I view the world as a big giant mirror. So the world is as we are, and I used my growth in every feeling and sorrow and anger and whatever came up. I would use it and hire a healer or talk through it and heal that part of me. And then I found that it would stop on the outside. And now I even talk about a lot more stuff, and no one hardly says anything about it because I just kind of own it. And I talk a lot about, it's a matter of taste and we don't have to agree. So I'm like very well-rounded now. And back then I was like, this is the truth and I have it and you should listen to me. And so I guess with the years, you become a little bit more rounder, and the people can digest it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you can't debate, tastes. That's just, we can agree and we can choose not to agree.
My cousin is a year younger than I am, and I just turned 31. And she and I were, because she's about ready to turn 30. And so she and I were talking the other day about how excited she is to finally turn 30 because she's ready for people to finally take her seriously. And we both giggled about it. And I said, I had the same feeling when I turned 30. I was like, oh my gosh, finally people will take me seriously. And there's something to it about having that extra decade under your belt of, even if you're saying the same stuff you were saying before, you have the extra decade of, no, I've been around. Yeah, this stuff has withstood 3 decades at least,
Yeah. And the vibration behind it is so much softer. So you don't really care. So the whole warrior energy, it's kind of, it's waned off a little bit and you're a little bit more just peaceful. So we go from this warrior energy to this Gandhi person. And then people are like, oh, okay, she's just rambling about stuff and we don't have to take that seriously. I like that.
I do too. I think it's kind of nice when you can come across as the crazy old lady that dresses funny, because you're doing your thing. You're just saying exactly what you want to say.
Yeah.
We are doing a 5-day bravery challenge starting May 15th, and I am so excited about it. I want to make sure you get signed up. That is, if you are up for the challenge. And what is the bravery challenge? I'm glad you asked. Here is how it will go this time around. It might be different in the future, but this time around, individually, I'm asking each challenger to pick a specific area of life, business, or creativity. Basically, it's an area that you need to be brave in, and it can be really specific. So this could be sending those 15 booking requests to venues that you've been seriously avoiding. It could be finally getting around to doing your taxes. This could be knowing that you have some really difficult and brave conversations coming up. It could even be as simple as doing a different kind of exercise for the week, just to mix things up and experience something different and something new. Your bravery could even be getting back online and going on a date, and it could terrify you, or it could be really pretty much a baby step. But whatever you choose, big or small, as a group with all the other challengers, we'll go together, we'll go through some of the basics of bravery together. Each of the 5 days will have really simple assignments aimed at exploring and building bravery in your chosen area. And what you'll find in doing these little baby mini steps individually and then at the same time as other folks, those baby steps will be easier and easier. And I promise by the end of the week, you'll have a much better understanding of how you can be brave and apply this bravery in a really tangible way to a really tangible area of your life too. Participation in the challenge is free. However, signups for this time around will close on May 14th, so I want to make sure you get in on the list while you can. Just go to barenakedbravery.com/challenge before May 14th. And if you're listening to this episode after May 14th, go ahead and get on the list for the challenge next time around. Again, you can go to barenakedbravery.com/challenge, and I will see you in there. Okay, so now I'm curious about what is your take on bravery and courage?
So I view it this way. When we find ourselves longing for courage, we're really in fear of something. And that's also a matter of taste, and it's a matter of talents and style. Like my daughter, the oldest one, she's very much into Musical.ly. So she'll do a Musical.ly in a few seconds, and she'll do makeup and hair and then post, and it's out. And for me, that would take a lot of courage because I'm not, I would have to do my makeup. It would take time. And then for me to be seen as singing and dancing or performing, I would need to rehearse, and I would have fear around that. For me, teaching, that's perfectly fine. I'm used to that. So that's not a big thing. So we view other people being brave if they're doing something we're a little bit fearful around ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do see bravery as being there's three kind of versions. There's like the internal bravery that only you are aware that you're being brave because you're maybe doing something that everyone else thinks is normal, but for you it's terrifying. Then there's the external bravery where you're doing and you're displaying on an external way. Hey, I'm getting on stage. This is something that not everyone does. I'm doing this. And then there's a resonant bravery that you're doing something that is normal for you, but that is somebody else is looking at you going, oh my gosh, that's such a brave thing to do.
Yeah.
So for your daughter to put herself on Musical.ly and then be done with it, that's not very brave for her to do because she does it all the time. But you're watching at her, and because it's resonant bravery, that bravery is spreading to you and going, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I also know a woman, she'll wear like red lipstick at 11 o'clock in the morning, and she'll be very like, you can see her boobs, and she'll have nail polish on, and she'll be looking like she's going on a date. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty brave for this hour. And to her, it's like totally normal. Showing up in beige would be kind of brave for her. That would take a lot from her. So a lot of people describe me as brave. I don't consider myself brave. Whenever I have fear, I take responsibility for it. And before I act, I handle my fear. I transform it with help or just with time. And then I act. So I'm not into the whole feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, feel the fear, heal it, and then go do it. And that's because I'm very sensitive. I don't like the whole roughness of feeling the fear and then doing it anyway, because it's not very nurturing to me. And that's one of my key things is we should go by joy and nurture and all of those soft elements. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm also not a fan of the do it anyways movement. I do think that, there are some instances where you're going to just need to do it. And that's part of being a human. But I think that our fear can be transformed. Our fear can be channeled and focused in the right place. And so I think that when our fear is focused on ourselves, that's when it can be kind of damaging. And that's where the do it anyways would be really damaging, because we're not actually letting out the fact, we're not being vulnerable with the fact that we have fear. And so then all that fear stays inside and
Yes.
it eats us up,
Yes, exactly.
I'm curious a little bit about what your thoughts on how does this, because you mentioned it a couple of times, how your values of nurturing and kindness and care, those are infused with everything you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've turned that up this year. So I'm like, I'm tuning into the simple question of does this bring me joy? Does this feel joyful? And if it's a no, I say no. And I thought it was going to be quite an easy task because I've doing, pretty much the same thing for years. But so many things turned up for me were like, oh, I don't want to say no to this invitation, or I can't change the location because other people will be whatever. So I'm really facing the pleaser inside of me who's already like taking a stand for let's do it without the joy because then, we'll have other people's joy intact. It's teaching me so much. And I loved, Marie Kondo, the whole tidying woman. And you can do it in your home and in your circle of friends and even your collection of bras. And it's really teaching you, what do I love? And when you surround yourself with more and more of that stuff, sometimes it's easier to begin on the physical stuff. But then, do I love the people I'm spending time with? Do I love my career? Do I love my husband? It's a big question and I love it. And the more joy I'm surrounding myself with, the more I'm in tune with my soul. That's how it feels like.
Mm-hmm. It makes it easy when all of your yeses are heck yeses.
Mm-hmm.
Then it makes it easier to identify where the gray is.
Exactly.
So for someone who is just, I feel like I'm kind of in a similar situation as this. So I'm also kind of speaking on behalf of the audience, on behalf of myself. When you see parts of your life that are completely incongruent with what your yeses and your nos are, and you're still in the in-between stage of going, this part of my life doesn't belong here anymore. How do you pry it out or replace it? Do you replace it? Do you put it into something else?
I love the quote, honor the space between no longer and not yet. That's perfect. I don't even know who it's from, but I love that. So once you tune into the whole concept of joy, you'll grow a lot, because when you make joy the focus, you'll just grow naturally because you're in tune with your whole soul connection. And with a lot of growth comes a lot of change. So, you'll have a whole wardrobe, and then a year after or a few months after, you'll be like, what was I thinking back then? So if we grow very fast on the spiritual plane, there's a lot of tidying on the physical plane. And I've found that takes, then you need a team, you need to delegate, and you need to find people. And in order to have that, you need to make more money, and it can be like this whole catch-22. So I just kind of tune into the whole thing, and then I focus on the next logical step. And that's always something we can handle. If we can't handle it, it's not our next logical step. So I just focus on that. And if my next step is something that brings up fear in me, or that I'm lacking the courage, then I'll pause, I'll chill a bit, or I'll find someone to help me with it. And then when it becomes like a next logical step, then I'll move ahead. And I always talk about, if we resist our resistance, we're in a really bad place. So it's okay to have resistance. You shouldn't resist it. You should just kind of embrace it. And that's something I've taught myself, and that helped me a lot.
That having that extra friction in your life, though, is really, it's agitating in a good way.
Yeah.
It shakes you up and goes, there's something wrong here. And I think that's one of the gifts of fear, is that it can agitate you into...
It wakes us up in a way. Yeah, it's a wake-up call. Yeah.
And I think we need more wake-up calls, especially with everything that's going on in the world today. Oh my gosh. Okay, so one last question for us. I think you have so many good things to offer. So this has been so fantastic today. For someone who is trying to incorporate more of who they already know they already know that they want to work, or their gift to the world is working in this one field or this one industry that is not well accepted by someone else or their own community. So they know they've already made that yes internally. What would you encourage them to do to either make the slow or the big steps, the fast steps to saying yes on the outside?
So if that were the case, I would take it as a mirror, and I would know that since this is reflected back to me, I must have those beliefs inside of me. So I would work on that a little bit and keep it small until I really owned it and basically couldn't help myself. And then I would grow from that. So I'm all about like laying a very solid foundation and then grow after that. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially the visionary, dreamy, creative types, they're like pushing and going ahead with no foundation. And that's not very solid. And that's exactly what I did. And then you end up in this whole stormy kind of weather and everything breaks down. And all you have to do is own that and say, okay, my foundation wasn't that great, so now I must build on that.
Yeah.
I must fix that. And then that can bring up a lot of doubting and a lot of, let's move this further along. And, but that's resistance. And then you should just look at that and don't resist that. And then say, it's going to take time that it's going to take. And when I'm ready and when timing is right, then, we can go out. So I love the fact that we can use our results kind of as a thermometer for what's going on inside of us. Mm-hmm. Makes it very easy.
Yeah, it does.
I would waste so much time defending myself or battling people or battling my own views. And now I'm just like, oh, okay, is this what's going on inside of me? We need to fix that before I move a little bit further along.
Yeah. That's really good. And you guys can't see this because this is a podcast and it's all audio, but right now the sun is setting behind Christine and I cannot see her face because the sun is so bright behind her, and she looks like she's got this massive sunburst over her head, like a halo or something. Perfectly timed. I don't know how you did that. That was great.
Yeah, that's part of my magic. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So your Bare Naked Bravery takeaway from today's show is to take an extra 5 to 15 minutes and, quote unquote, take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Not a physical mirror, of course, but the metaphorical mirror of your own context and your own environment. What is it telling you? Can the reaction of others around you inform your next decision that you make? Is there something your physical, relational, and career environment is telling you that you've been missing? Again, take 5 to 15 minutes to just take it all in and get a little bit more aware of your metaphorical environment and surroundings. Christine would love to hear all about your favorite parts of today's Bare Naked Bravery. You can find Christine Eilvig and myself on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more. Just go ahead and tag us so that she and I can cheer you on and see what you're up to. It's really great when that happens. And that's our show this week. Thank you again for listening. Again, we've put all of the links in the show notes for today's episode, so be sure to visit us online for all of that. Just visit barenakedbravery.com. And again, as a reminder, if you want to jump in on the Bare Naked Bravery Challenge, don't forget to do that before May 14th by visiting barenakedbravery.com/challenge. And again, if you're listening to this episode after May 14th, that's okay too. You can join at this very moment for the next time it pops up. So if you're digging the music in today's episode, that's because it is brought to you by my friends at Music Box Licensing, a premier creative music agency dedicated to finding and crafting unique soundtracks. To find out more about all the artists, musicians, and other sponsors of the show, please visit barenakedbravery.com/sponsors. I'm really looking forward to being with you next week. We have some awesome things in store for you. But until then, I have one message for you. It is this: be yourself. be vulnerable, be brave, because the world needs more of your bare naked bravery.